a lot of people don't understand that recruiters actually really need to know what is your living situation. And here's why. There are a few scenarios of which a recruiter, any professional, decent headhunter, and I'm talking about headhunters who are agency recruiters. So let's say they represent a bucket of clients and they want to represent you to a few different clients of theirs. Well, they need to know your living situation because number one, relocation. So you have to understand that because I recruit nationally, it's really important for me to understand if my candidate can or cannot relocate, and also where they can commute to. If they own a house, it's going to be very hard to relocate them because then they have to sell the home. They have to figure out what they're going to do with all their stuff. And also they might be owning their home for a certain reason, i.e. school districts in a particular location. It just makes their situation a little bit more complicated. Whereas if someone rents, it's way easier to move them because at most you pay a break lease fee. And that's very cheap and easy to pay for. So there is a very distinct moment of which a professional headhunter would ask you, what is your situation? Do you own? Do you rent? Because that absolutely impacts where you can work. Especially if someone owns a home in the middle of nowhere and they're tied to that area now because they own the home and they don't want to rent it out. Their house is underwater, as in like the mortgage is more costly than the rental cost. Then that person is truly and completely effed because they can't move. They can't move and they can't rent out their home because they're literally losing money every month. And they're probably already behind on their bills. So it's this whole problem. That is why owning a home is not necessarily all what it's cracked up to be, because it does impact what kind of jobs you can afford to take. And forget sales jobs. A lot of people I talk to, because I recruit for the sales career of agency recruiters, our base salaries are very low compared to our total comp, which is actually very high. Because this is such a commission heavy job, so many people cannot afford to be in this line of work anymore because they just bought a house. And all of a sudden, because they bought a house or a co-op in New York City, their monthly costs just jumped up massively. And now they're committed to that number. And so for many, many people, they no longer can take the risk of either becoming an entrepreneur or staying in a sales job because their base salary is so low. It's not enough to cover their fixed costs. And that's what ultimately mortgages do, is that they really do capture you on a fixed cost basis, especially if you're paying a lot of money for homes in inflated areas, which is very typical in the last 10 to 20 years, where there's many major cities that the rent cost is actually lower than the mortgage cost. And that's when you know the math is just not mathing anymore.